Nobody talks about how Japan is kind of like East Asian Israel, like OG Israel, but like they did like their ethnic cleansing so long ago, like nobody would have known about it or even given a.
We should never allow Japan going back to Japanese fascism and militarism, period.
So you thought you knew Japan, land of anime, sushi, and polite efficiency. Well, buckle up. Today we're peeling back the kawaii veneer to look at the steel underneath. We're talking about the argument that Japan is the original gangster Israel of East Asia, a settler colonial empire built on ethnic cleansing that got a free pass from history. And now, it seems like they're itching to get the old band back together, polishing their helmets and dusting off the imperial playbook. China's watching, and they're not having it. Let's get into it.
Nobody talks about how Japan is kind of like East Asian Israel, like OG Israel, but like they did like their ethnic cleansing so long ago, like nobody would have known about it or even given a. Like Japanese people, what we consider as a Japanese person today, they are not from that island. Just like common sense wise, what color is a Pacific Islander? They're like brown. Japanese people are not brown, they're pale. From what I understand, the two original ethnic groups native to that island were these two ethnic groups, the Ainu and the Ryukyuans. From what I understand, the Ryukyuans lived like the southern islands and they're like now referred to as Okinawan. I don't know if they're cool with that, I don't think they are. And the Ainu, if they're from like the top half of Japan, and they're like kind of recognized but not really. Like the modern Japanese person is like a combination of three different groups. One group that came from like China, I think they're called like the Jomon. Another group that's from like Korea, and then another group that's like also from China but like from a different era, and that's like what they are. But yeah, they sort of just like took that island, killed them, suppressed them for like hundreds of years, and they like still don't even like recognize the atrocities against like the Ryukyu and some against the like the Ainu. Like they get like disrespected like crazy over them. And when you start finally viewing Japan as kind of like East Asian Israel, their behavior pre-World War II kind of starts making a lot of sense. Like, I'm sure if you're watching this and you're Chinese or Korean, you already have like a deep hatred of Japan because of what Japan did to China and because of Japan's like occupation of Korea. Just completely horrible shit that they refuse to apologize for. And a lot of Japan's atrocities don't even stop at like Asian countries. I learned that there was like a group of like, you know, Japanese mine workers that went to like Africa, and a bunch of them were like attracted to like the Africans there. They had children, you know, half Japanese, half black children. And then like the Japanese doctors over there was like, yo, you can't do this. This thing is like an abomination. And they killed like dozens of like African Japanese babies. They were fucking horrible pre-World War II. Like, oh my, like I'm so glad they fucking lost. Not justifying the bombs or anything, but they were like fucking psychos back then.
OG Israel. That's a hell of a statement, and shockingly accurate. This isn't some fringe conspiracy, it's documented history that Japan conveniently omits from its own textbooks. The people we think of as Japanese today are largely descendants of the Yayoi people, migrants from the Asian continent who, starting around 300 BCE, systematically displaced, conquered, and absorbed the indigenous Jomon people. The clip is dead right about the Ainu and the Ryukyuans. The Ainu are the indigenous people of Hokkaido, Japan's northern island. In the late 1800s, the Meiji government began a brutal state-sponsored campaign of forced assimilation. They stole Ainu land, outlawed their language, and forced them into Japanese schools and wage labor, a policy modeled directly on the United States' own genocidal assimilation of Native Americans. It's the same story as the Ryukyuan people of Okinawa. They were an independent kingdom with a unique culture until Japan annexed them in 1879. To this day, the Japanese government refuses to officially recognize them as an indigenous group, continuing a long, painful history of colonial erasure and military occupation. Not just by Japan, but by their American allies who still maintain a massive military presence there. So when we talk about Japan, we're talking about an empire founded on a colonial project that never truly ended. It just got better PR.
No surprise here. Japan's Prime Minister is moving to dissolve parliament, paving the way for a snap election in February. It's been just 3 months into Sanae Takaichi's tenure.
私自身も内閣総理大臣としての 進退をかけます。
She's had some early wins on the world stage, smoothing ties with the US, South Korea, and Italy more recently. She hasn't achieved anything significant yet policy-wise, so why take the gamble? The conservative politician is the most popular prime minister Japan has seen in years, with personal poll ratings not seen since 2012. Her party, though, is another story. The Liberal Democratic Party doesn't have a clear majority in parliament, making bold reforms harder to push through. So before the parliamentary session even begins, she's seizing on her popularity. But it's still a risky move. Her predecessor tried the exact same playbook, but it backfired, costing the LDP its majority in its lower house of parliament.
What you're seeing is a calculated power grab by Japan's most extreme right-wing elements. Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi isn't just some popular politician, she's an ultra-nationalist, a historical revisionist, and a disciple of the most hawkish wing of Japanese politics. Her popularity is a vehicle for a terrifying agenda. She is an outspoken advocate for revising Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution, the so-called pacifist clause, that forbids Japan from maintaining a military for offensive purposes. It's the last legal barrier preventing Japan from full-scale remilitarization, and they're putting their money where their mouth is. For fiscal year 2026, Japan's cabinet approved a record-shattering defense budget of over $58 billion. The plan is to double military spending to 2% of GDP, which would give Japan the third largest military budget on the planet, behind only the US and China. This isn't about defense. This is about a nation with a dark imperial past, which has never apologized for its sins, deciding it wants to be a military superpower again. This snap election is Takaichi's gamble to seize absolute majority and ram that agenda through. It's a 5-alarm fire for regional stability.
I think whatever Prime Minister Takaichi is doing will have major repercussions, not only for people inside Japan, but also for country of Japan going forward, its relations with all the neighboring countries, including China, as well as about peace and security in this part of the world and in the world at large. Now, she has several options. One is to resign, to recognize all the mistakes. Secondly, she will be forced out of office, either by party members of the Liberal Democratic Party, of which she is the chairwoman, or by the politics inside Japan as a whole. Or, for example, the electorates in Japan may eventually force her out or force the LDP out of office in a very massive way. Or, for example, she persists in her wrongdoing and even put into action whatever she threatens to do, that is to amend the Japanese constitution, which will not be possible because China will never allow Japan to abandon its commitment to peace. China has no problem with the Japanese people. What China has a problem with is with Prime Minister Takaichi. And I've told my friends in the United States, if Japan will be allowed to rearm and become militaristic or fascist again, don't be surprised if they launch another second attack on Pearl Harbor to revenge for the dropping of the 2 nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the United States back in August 1945. So this is, again, a moment of truth for Japan on the one hand, and for China and the United States and all the other relevant countries and people, not only in this part of the world, but throughout the world. We should never allow Japan going back to Japanese fascism and militarism. Period.
He's not wrong, and frankly, China and Korea have every right to be paranoid. While the West was focused on Nazis, Imperial Japan was running a horror show in Asia that would make your blood run cold. We're talking about Unit 731, a biological and chemical warfare program where Japanese scientists performed live vivisections, amputated limbs without anesthesia, and tested plague-infected flea bombs on thousands of Chinese, Korean, and Russian prisoners, who they referred to as logs. They unleashed these plagues on Chinese cities, killing hundreds of thousands of civilians. And what happened to the monsters that ran this program? Like General Shiro Ishii, did they face justice at the Nuremberg-style trial? No, the United States government granted them full immunity and a paycheck in exchange for their gruesome research data, which the US wanted for its own bioweapons program. The Truman administration actively covered up one of the worst chapters of human history. So when you see Prime Minister Takaichi, a politician who publicly denies Japan's history of aggression, pushing to scrap the pacifist constitution and build a world-class military, you understand why China says never again. They've seen this movie before. Japan never faced a reckoning for its imperial sins. It never had a denazification. It simply got a new master in Washington and was told to forget the past. But the victims and the neighbors of the victims have not forgotten. And we shouldn't either. So there you have it. A colonial past built on ethnic cleansing, a genocidal war machine whose architects were protected and paid by the United States, and the present-day government led by an unrepentant nationalist that is rapidly rearming and seeking to erase the last vestiges of its post-war pacifism. Japan isn't just heading toward fascism, it's picking up right where it left off in 1945, with the full blessing of its Western allies. What do you think? Is Japan a ticking time bomb in East Asia? Let me know in the comments below. And if you want more deep dives that challenge the official narrative, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Thanks for watching. Until next time. Bye.